I'm here today with Volk-Man of Die Apokalyptischen Reiter to talk about the latest record, Wilde, out April 22nd on Nuclear Blast. How's it going with you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward for the interview, of course.
Well, thank you for taking the time for the chat, and I hope I didn't butcher the name of the band or the album. You know, my German is not as strong as, well, pretty much any other language that I'm able to speak.
Yeah, we are used to this for a long time. We know it's pretty difficult to pronounce this correctly, but I think everybody knows what this band is all about. So
that is true. That is true. And when we look at this record, when you look at the concept, the theme of freedom that really permeates throughout this album, what does that word mean to you? What does the word freedom mean to you?
Oh, the freedom has so many aspects, you know. On one hand, you know, it's the freedom to choose what you want to do. But on the other hand, of course, your own freedom always gets limited when your freedom affects another person, you know, in the freedom of another person. So you need to find a balance of your own freedom and your freedom of everybody around you. So yeah, the concept of freedom is so yeah, on one hand speaking about their own freedom, you know, to do what you want. On the other hand, it's you can see it in a philosophical way, you know, to think without boundaries, or you can think it in yeah, maybe also in economic way, you know, that you can, yeah, you have the freedom to do what you want. And so it's also liberal economics, you know, they more are a bit addicted to that topic of freedom to explain their view on financial structures. So, but for us, I think it's the more important thing is especially, you know, in the pandemic, you had a lot of time to think or rethink about your life, you know. And for the first time in a long time, you got limitations in your own freedom, you know. You were not allowed to go here and there, and you couldn't cross borders. And so then you realized, okay, this life we had in the last years, it was something you never questioned it, you know. Mm-hmm. But now you see all around the world, around the globe, so many problems rising, and everything somehow is connected with freedom, you know. And so we felt it's a very strong topic, that it was always a very important you know, yeah, a big part of our band philosophy, you know. And when we choose you know, the first track, we you know, we have a part written by a German anti-fascist who died in 1935. He was killed by the Nazis, you know, because he fought for freedom, and his freedom was you know, there was like a wall he couldn't pass, you know. And this was definitely the darkest moment in our history. And looking at the past from today's perspective, and seeing all these similarities in what's going on in so many strange ways, this is quite alarming to us. So we want to remind people to be very careful when they looking for you know, answers what's going on today, because you find a lot of similarities in the past. And yeah, so we think it's a very strong impact to start the album with such a song.
How does the title of the record, which translates to Wild Children, how does the title of the record then tie into the concept of the album? Do you guys see yourself as a little bit of wild children?
Yes, of course. Yeah. Well, hopefully there is some wilderness in us. That's the key question, you know. When you think about being a wild child or being a wild person, when you were born, you know, as a child, there was basically not so many rules, you know. Then your first steps into the kindergarten and the school, and then later you get a job and a boss, and yeah. So all these steps in age, you know, this brings you much more rules around you. So and sometimes I have the feeling that this wild moment that's somewhere in everybody of us, it's lost, you know. Many people maybe don't even know about it. They just follow, you know, the rules, and nobody is really questions this situation. So we think it should be allowed to have a wild, you know, you have a wild inner self, you know, that you can from time to time break out of all the conventions that give you the limitations, and often all this limitation give you kind of a, you know, kind of depression, you know, because you feel you are trapped in something you cannot escape from, you know. And so we think the wild society and the wild children and everything is somehow connected together, and we want to give people maybe a bit of courage, just to not to do all the time the same again and again, you know. I mean, there is a story that's a bit behind of this whole album. We our singer Fuchs has written a story. There's the full story is printed in the digital in the bonus CD edition, where we speak, or he tells a story about a girl. She's 15, and she's just leaving their parents' house, and she's escaping from the golden cage, you know, because she feels so limited in all what she's doing, and because she wants to be free, and so she decides to go into the woods, you know, and to stay away from their family. She stays away from the school, and so she has she met interesting people, and this gave her a new perspective for her own life, you know. And a little bit, when you see the video we did for the title track, it's a little bit a story that was you know, we did around this story from Fuchs.
So when it comes down to this album, and you have this idea, this concept, what came first? Did the sound push you in the direction of the topic, or did the topic that you guys had in mind kind of dictated the sound that the album has?
Well, I think mostly it comes together somehow. It's always nice if you have a major, you know, a major point, or a title already, you know, an album title. Because I remember we had a few albums in the past when we recorded the album and all was finished, but we were still out of clue what a possible album title could be. In this case, in our case, for Wilde Kinder, this album title was chosen so early, and it made it a lot of easier to us, because every idea, every single word, every design, everything, you could always question yourself, ask yourself, does it fit to the concept of the wilderness, Wilde Kinder, or is it maybe too far away? So I think the title was a bit like a guideline. It gave us like a, it was like even if you were a bit, it always happens when you do a record. You have some creative moments, and then you also have some weeks when you think, okay, normally this song should be done or it should be finished, but something is missing, and then you can come back to this, or okay, what we want to talk about on this album. Okay, we have this wilderness thing. Okay, let's think in that direction. So I think it helped us to make a proper album, which is, of course, it has always different musical elements, but there is something that ties everything together, and I think this is important for us, because so the whole album feels very, very, from the start to finish, it's a unit, and this was
100%, and I think it's more noticeable on this record than in some of the previous albums. And I wanted to ask you that was the track listing, the flow that you guys created, was that a little bit organic, or did you sit around the table and decided what best way to present these songs so that the album has that feeling of being together?
Yeah, we always have a feeling that a title track or a title track order on an album is it should be a bit like a show when you do a live concert. In the beginning you have some intense moments, and then you have some time to breathe and to relax in the middle, and then at the end, of course, there is like a grand final and something that's giving you a kind of goosebumps and epic feelings. This time the track listing was pretty easy, I think, because I think we worked a long time on it, and of course this pandemic was not planned. So normally this album was planned to be released last summer, but there was a sign from Nuclear Blast that they said, okay guys, if you have any trouble or if you are in hurry finishing something, take your time, because a lot of bands postponed the albums, and we don't think we will release it in 2021. So, and when they said this to us, we took a break, and I think this was very cool thing, because then after a while, when you return to your own ideas, to the, let's say, 80% finished songs, then you have another view on the songs. You are not so deeply in the song. So you are maybe listening to it like not like a fan, but maybe you can,
like an outsider, maybe.
Yeah, you can be a bit more neutral from another perspective, instead of, if you are like 3 or 5 times a week in a rehearsal room, then sometimes it's very hard to decide if this is really better or just different. Then that's basically stuff bands do in rehearsal rooms. They change ideas from first to second to third, fourth, and then they go back. So, and this time it was there was a longer break in between, and I feel it was a very, very good decision.
You mentioned earlier that the album is very connected, and I agree with you. And definitely one of the elements that connects the record is the theme that the album has. But musically, do you feel like there is one element on this album musically that also connects this record?
Well, I think this time the guitar work is much more in foreground than in the past, because maybe you have realized we had a little change in the lineup. You know, our keyboard player decided not to quit the band, but he said us after the last album, Rote Reiter, he's not willing to continue with us rehearsing and songwriting. He just wants to be with us on stage. So that meant for this album, it was first time for many, many years we wrote this just as a 4-piece band without a keyboard all around us. And I remember a lot of fighting between guitar line and keyboard lines on the past albums. This time, the keyboard was not there. So I think the guitars had much more space. There is a lot more twin guitar, melodic stuff, and also some kind of a more, especially like in the last song, Ich bin ein Mensch, you know, this more industrial feeling that comes from kind of a modern synthesizer sounds. We never used that in the past so much. Of course, we felt something is missing, and we tried to rearrange the way of songwriting a bit. But this was actually fun, and I think it gave the whole album kind of a fresh atmosphere, fresh. You know, it feels a bit different than the previous ones, but I wouldn't say it's too different from like the Rote Reiter, because from the energy perspective, I think it's a kind of good continuation with the Rote Reiter and this album, because the bigger break for me was between the Rote Reiter and Tief Tiefer, because there was really a bigger change in the musical direction.
Well, what about bass-wise? Did you have a game plan coming into this record? You want to try maybe something new, or you had some ideas on what you wanted to achieve? Or do you come in more with an open slate and where the tracks are taking you, that's kind of where you're going?
No, actually, there was no bigger planning from my side to I mean, of course, the biggest challenge was probably that when we were supposed to go to the studio, the rules for what are not allowed because of the pandemic was so strict. We were not allowed to go together into the same studio, which is located in Hamburg, which is about 5 hours away from our place. So we decided, okay, let's first take the drums, because this is probably the instrument that needs the most of the typical studio environment, because drumming is a lot of sound. You know, the sound of a room is so important for a huge drum sound. Mm-hmm. So, but then we realized, okay, the gear we have is very, very, I mean, I started with like a 100 kilo Ampeg, you know, monster cabinet and huge amplifiers. And over the years, everything got smaller and smaller. And nowadays it's basically possible that I record everywhere my stuff, you know. And then we said, okay, when we can't go to Hamburg and to record it there, let's have a try. Let's have a try and do the guitars and the bass in our own rehearsal room. So the studio technician decided to bring a special setup to our place, and it worked really well. And it was for me, it felt much more organic to play in the middle of a room I know from like 20 years, instead of being in a very, you know, perfect studio surrounding. But on the same time, you know, you sit there with headphones and everything is, you know, very clean and absolutely no dirt, no metal, nothing. It's just a studio environment. And I enjoyed the sessions in our rehearsal room much more than the normal recording sessions in the past. I have to admit that.
Is this something that you guys maybe will continue, considering how much fun it was and how much better it felt?
Yeah, I mean, it was only the beginning of the journey, you know. It ended up that I was in southern France in this last summer, you know, and I said to the guys, okay, I'm out for some weeks because I need a break. I need to go out, and my family is going with me. But I take my mobile recording equipment with me, and also my bass. And if everything is wrong, or if you have any idea, just give me a call. And then our Eddie, our guitar player, phoned me up and said, okay, Volk, we changed the chorus in that song and we need a new bass line. Are you able to do it? I said, yes, I can try it. And it ended up that I was sitting on a campground and just recording my bass into my mobile computer on my sound card and send the file to Hamburg. And they said, okay, it's not 100% perfect, but we can work with that. And also Fuchs did a longer break and was also in southern France, and he had in mind to make some kind of vocal overdubs for the vocals he recorded in the studio. And so he recorded something in the middle of the woods, or in the, you know, somewhere in a nearby a sea, you know. And I mean, it's just if you see or listen to the original signal of his recording, and then you add a bit of this second layers, it was definitely worth to make this effort.
I can only imagine your family telling you, let's go on vacation, and you're like, okay, let me pack. And the first thing you pack is your bass and your recording equipment.
Yeah, that's yeah, I was to be honest, I was expecting a bit that something like this is coming, because our singer said when some days before I started, said, I'm not really convinced about my melody line here, and maybe if you have some space, just put the bass in your car, and maybe we need to change this. And so, but this is actually, you know, actually it's that's the stories you remember for a lifetime. It was not, it's not planned, and it's also, I think, this, it's not something to be, you know, nobody can be perfect. This is something I definitely don't see, you know. I mean, all this kind of little mistakes, not mistakes in sense of that there is really a big mistake some here and there, but I like the fact that humans play an instrument and they sound like humans and not like machines, you know. And also when we started to mix, you know, we sometimes say, okay, let's turn off this fucking screen and let's stop to watch all the time on the grid, you know, because sometimes you think, okay, it sounds quite okay and it must be quite perfect because everything is on the grid, everything is perfect. Then you turn off the screen, you mix it with your ears, then you turn on the screen again and you say, okay, it's weird, but it's not everything 100% on the grid. It's a bit more organic, you know. I absolutely love the first System of a Down album. There are so many mistakes, little mistakes, but this whole thing, it gives you so much energy and drive and dirt and everything. And I absolutely love to, you know, sometimes you have to cheat the techniques, you know, that you are not become such a sterile and, you know, free of emotion record. You know, how to explain this, but I think I need to understand, and I want to feel that musicians sweat and you know, in the rehearsal room when they record it, and it's not a product. It's something people create together, and there should be a possibility to get the feeling back when you put on a CD or a vinyl on your player.
One last question for you. The band over time, throughout its entire discography, you guys have never been afraid of change and switch things around. You're always super creative when it comes to each and every single record. How much time do you guys give yourselves to enjoy the moment of what the album has in store? And how much are you already starting to drive yourself to where you want to push the band as far as sound is concerned for the following record?
Yeah, it's always a balance. You need always to find a balance, because I think I said it often, it's always a fight between your head and your stomach somehow when you create a song. And if we look back to last year when we released our Divine Horseman experimental improvised album, the reason to do this was because we wanted to go back to the very early days of the band, when you just came to the rehearsal room with with some beers, and then you just started playing, and there was no discussion, there was nothing. It was just straight ahead, going forward, playing music, press the button, record it on tape or somewhere, you know, and then after a few weeks you had an album written, you know. That was the days, you know. And with every record you try to achieve new things. You want, of course, you learn stuff, and during recording sessions, and you improve yourself on the instrument, of course. And but sometimes it's a bit, you know, yeah, we changed this and we changed this, and sometimes it was not the best decision to change it that often, you know. And so when we made this tour in Italy, I think it was 2010, we had some time, and we did some kind of band vacation with just our tents in the mountains, and we drank a lot of alcohol, of course. And then we said, one day we should do an album in just 2 days, just no thinking, just doing, you know. And because of the pandemic and everything, we were a bit forced to be creative, and were allowed to do a regular festival, that was planned for our anniversary. So the record company said, okay, we can do like a best of for you, or have you any B-sides left? And this all felt not really cool to us. We said, okay, there was this old idea from Italy, you remember? Just 2 days, no thinking, just drinking and playing. And our friend Alex, the guitar player of Heaven Shall Burn, he's living just like 10 minutes away from us. And we told him that idea, and he said, okay, I have like kind of you need to take attention of a bit attention when you record that stuff, and I can help you with putting the microphones in the right position in front of your speakers, and yeah, let make the room sound very good, and then let's have fun for 2 days. And so I think this was a very, very important aspect also to understand Wilde Kinder, because after this creative break with Divine Horseman, we returned to Wilde Kinder, and I think all the problems we had before, that some songs didn't feel really well, or there was a chorus missing, or something was not really well together, all this was solved with the you know, experience we had with Divine Horsemen, that sometimes it's good when you just let your first idea, you know, keep the first moment, keep the first idea, what's coming to your mind, because mostly this first thing that comes to your head is the correct one. And because this is probably the idea that comes from your stomach and not from your head, you know.
Yeah, it's more from the gut. Well, Volk-Man, thank you very much for your time today. It was an absolute pleasure to talk to you about the band, to talk to you about the record. Best of luck with the release. Wilde Kinder out April 22nd on Nuclear Blast. Once again, thank you very much.
Oh yeah, thank you very much too. And feel free, you know, to check out our release show at 1st of May, March for Freedom, and on our website. We will broadcast it worldwide on our website, and it's the first time we will play songs from the album, from the new album as well, and some classics. So it will be hopefully a blast.
I'll put the descriptions and the link of this video so people can check it out for sure.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.